Hello, everyone. Good morning to all joining us today from Europe and Africa region, and a good afternoon to all participants from Asia too. My name is Suchitra Upre, and I'm the coordinator for the CAFI-SSF Network. I welcome all of you all today to the first webinar talk series for this year, co-organized with our regional founding members, Africa and Africa, in association with the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Today, in our knowledge sharing session, the topic we bring to you for discussion is financial inclusion policies in the fisheries sector, experience sharings of financial institutions from India, Tanzania, and Vietnam that have successfully strategized and implemented large-scale inclusive financial policy initiatives to support their respective countries for financial inclusion programs and provide access to fisheries finance. Now, before we proceed with our discussions, I would like to request all of y'all to please make sure in your windows, your name and the organization that you represent is also mentioned. And also please be mindful to remember to mute the audio when the presentations are in progress. Also, if you may have any questions for the speakers, please feel free to place it in the chat box. We will address them during the question and answer slot after all the presentations are over. So moving just to give you a brief outline of our program agenda for today. So we're going to begin with presentation on FAO's financial inclusion policy and blue transformation strategy by our guest speaker, who I'll be introducing soon to you all. Then we have 3 country presentations on inclusive financial policies as to how these countries have successfully strategized that, and they'll be sharing their experiences. After that, we'll be having a presentation on role of national networks in ensuring financial inclusion to a small-scale fisheries sector in Asia, followed by question and answer sessions, and then the closing remarks by the Africa Secretary General. So with this, I would like to begin and invite our guest speaker, chief guest today, Dr. Raymond Van Androoy, who is the Senior Fisheries Officer and also the team leader for the in the Fisheries and Aquaculture Division of the Food and Agriculture Organization. Dr. Raymond is with the FAO since 2000 and has been posted in several countries and currently with FAO's Fishing Operations and Technology branch. His main areas of expertise are in fisheries development and investment, techno-economic assessments of fishing fleet performance, as well as safety in fisheries, emergency assistance, and fisheries microfinance, credit and insurance services. So Dr. Raymond, over to you for the Blue Transformation Strategy and Inclusive Policies.
Thank you very much, Suchitra. Good morning to everyone. Let me see if I can share the screen. Can you see my screen, Suchitra?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. And first of all, let me thank again Suchitra for organizing this event. On behalf of FAO, I would like to express my thanks to Suchitra, but also to the other speakers today from India, Tanzania, Vietnam, and of course our friends from Africa and Africa. In the next 10 minutes, I will try to introduce to you the Blue Transformation Strategy and why it needs inclusive finance. FAO's new initiative on Blue Transformation is a development from the previous Blue Growth and Blue Economy approaches and is purely aimed at sustainable fisheries and agriculture. So it doesn't include other sectors such as energy, shipping, and tourism. I'll try to set the scene for Blue Transformation, then discuss what FAO will focus on and why finance is important for a Blue Transformation. My colleague Doigu will share with you via the chat a range of documents on Blue Transformation and other items during my presentation. Let me first start with Sustainable Development Goal number 2. is the goal on zero hunger. It aims to achieve a world free of hunger by 2030. The sad situation is that in the last years, the number of people that go to bed hungry is actually increasing again. The COVID-19 pandemic, natural disasters, and wars are causing this increase. FAO estimates that there are about 828 million people affected by hunger in 2021, and this is an increase of 150 million compared to the year 2019. So just a couple of years, there is a tremendous increase in food insecurity and hunger actually in the world. And we all are supposed to work on this together. Aquatic foods help to reduce food insecurity. Firstly, there are hundreds of aquatic species consumed that are caught in fisheries or produced by aquaculture. There are many more different aquatic species consumed than there are actually terrestrial animals consumed by humans. Secondly, aquatic foods such as fish, shrimp, and mussels are healthy for your diet. Eating these aquatic foods is also better for the environment than getting your proteins from land-based animals. For the production of 1 kilogram of fish in aquaculture, we need about 1 or 1.5, sometimes 2 kilograms of feed. Well, for beef or the feed conversion is much higher, as you can see here on the graph. You need thus less feed inputs to produce 1 kilogram of fish compared to meat or chicken. Similarly, the greenhouse gas emissions per gram of protein produced are very low in fish in aquaculture, much lower than from other animal protein sources. Thirdly, aquatic foods contain high levels of essential minerals, vitamins, and fatty acids, relatively more than other sources. Fish is a good source for your health and, of course, also for your brain. So you see on the screen the large differences between mussels, sardines, and, for instance, chicken and beef for the different vitamins and other minerals. FAO estimates that the total aquatic animal production will increase by 14% between 2023 and 2030. At the same time, the global population is expected to increase with about 500 million people to 8.5 billion people by 2030. Feeding the growing world population will be a great challenge. Moreover, the availability of fish for human consumption is not equally distributed. In Europe, North America, and some parts of Asia, the availability of fish is actually increasing, while in Africa, with its rapid population increase, the per capita availability of fish for consumption is likely to decrease in the coming years if we are not changing our production practices and the value chains. So what can we say? More is expected from the aquatic food systems. Together, we must ensure that growth is sustainable, and not just sustainable, but also more equitable. FAO member states therefore called upon FAO for a blue transformation, a transformation to more efficient, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable aquatic food systems for a better production, better nutrition, better environment, and better life. The slogan is that we use is leaving no one behind. So we really need to aim at that. The FAO Blue Transformation Strategy has 3 objectives and quantifiable outcomes related to these. The first objective focuses on aquaculture intensification and extension or expansion. For FAO, with our limited financial resources, the priority is to help mainly the low-income food deficit countries, of which many are can be found in the African region, but also some in Latin America and Asia. FAO is assisting many countries with aquaculture development, as you can see here on the screen. And also we are finalizing the guidelines for sustainable aquaculture. And these are worldwide guidelines. We're doing that with our membership of 194 countries. And these guidelines will be discussed next month in the subcommittee on aquaculture in Mexico meeting. So those of you who have an interest in these guidelines, we can share the draft with you after this meeting. So here on the screen, you see some examples of aquaculture support to African countries by FAO. We're working in many different countries. And this is great, but we still need to do more. The second objective is to achieve effective management of fisheries. Only with effective fisheries management, we can reduce overfishing and illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing. The share of fishery resources that are overfished has been growing, unfortunately, and we need to turn this trend around to realize sustainable capture fisheries throughout the world. The third objective of Blue Transformation focuses on fisheries and aquaculture value chains. Currently, about 30% of the fish that are caught by the fisheries, marine fisheries, is wasted before it reaches consumers. The food losses are too high. Investments in the value chain to maintain the fish quality and food safety are therefore highly needed. So there's a lot of work to do there. We're working, for instance, in Africa with the Fish for ACP project on improving fisheries and aquaculture value chains in collaboration also with Africa. We're providing their support to inclusive finance. Our projections of FAO are that if we continue as we do now, then we will have less fish for the population eventually, despite some growth in aquaculture production. Blue transformation will increase the total fish availability and will increase availability of fish for all people. The fisheries and aquaculture sectors generated together in 2021 about $424 billion in first sale value. So this is a really large amount. And from that 424 billion, about 77 billion was contributed or generated by small-scale fishers. So the small-scale fishery sector is providing a huge contribution to global fish availability. Worldwide, nearly 60 million people are employed in fisheries and aquaculture, including many women. And the development of small-scale businesses in fisheries is actually hampered by financial exclusion. As we see here on the screen, we have thousands of industrial fishing companies that have good access, but on the other side, we have millions of small-scale fishers and aquaculture farmers, as well as fishing women and traders or fish workers that have no or limited access to financial services. A blue transformation can only be achieved if we provide opportunities to grow for fishers and aquaculture farmers and the small and medium businesses in the value chain. Financial inclusion is key. We need to broaden, but also deepen financial service provision to fishers and fish farmers, develop targeted products, give specific attention to the poor and vulnerable, and improve financial literacy and make sure that the clients are protected. So there is a lot of financial service improvements that can contribute to a blue transformation. FAO has a division working on inclusive rural finance, which aims to create enabling conditions for unlocking finance and investment through, for instance, sharing and development of experiences, increasing stakeholder capacities, development of policies, development of stronger partnerships. And this division works on financial inclusion, transition of food production systems, risk management or de-risking of financial products, and on digital finance, for instance. Many studies and tools are produced, and after this webinar, a list will be shared with you in an email. Finally, and not least important, I would like to emphasize that the CAFI-SSF Network continues to support financial inclusion in fisheries and aquaculture. FEO, together with our network founding members, Africa and Africa, and many of you here on this webinar, are supporting the countries with advice and information on financial inclusion. We all agree that achieving SDG 2 on zero hunger and SDG 14 on oceans health will not be possible without strengthening the contribution from aquatic foods, and the financial services are definitely essential for doing so. In conclusion, without access to inclusive financial services, a real blue transformation cannot take place. The sustainable expansion of aquaculture needs that we provide financial service access to small-scale aquaculturists and their families. Also for fisheries management, if we want to achieve 100% of fisheries resources under management, then financial services are not only needed for the large-scale producers, but also for small-scale fishers to adopt sustainable and innovative technologies. And I'm very pleased that with the colleagues from Africa and Africa, we are working on providing access to these innovative technologies in fisheries. Also, for the upgrading of fish value chains, we need financial services at every stage. On top of that, what is also important is in order to bring these financial services to the sector and to help access, the increase of access to financial services, we need to make sure that financial aquatic food systems are also one of the focus areas for rural finance strategies and national food security strategies and policies. Without doing so at the policy level, it is sometimes difficult to generate enough financial resources for improvements in the sector. So what we can conclude is financial inclusion is essential for blue transformation, especially for the small-scale producers in the value chain. So thank you all very much for your kind attention to this presentation. I hope it was useful. And of course, I'm open to questions now or later. So Suchitra, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Raymond, for giving us an overview of the Blue Transformation Strategy and how inclusive financial services can be integrated with that. So we will take a lot of questions, I'm sure, towards the end. We will proceed with our next presentation for today. And I would like to welcome our first guest speaker for today. He's Dr. Prakash Das. He's the General Manager for the Strategic Planning and Product Innovation Department from the National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development in India. Dr. Das began his career as a fisheries officer in State Government of Odisha and later worked as a scientist in Indian Council of Agriculture Research at Port Blair. For over 2.5 decades, he has been associated with NABARD Bank and is currently responsible for various digital innovations for furthering financial inclusion. So, Dr. Prakash Das, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Suchitra. Am I audible?
Yes.
Good afternoon and good morning to all the participants. The speakers from the APO, Dr. Raymond, speaker from Tanzania, speaker from Vietnam, Secretary General Africa, Dr. Prasun Das, all other participants. First of all, I would like to thank this CAFI-SSF and the Africa for organizing this webinar. And I'd like to share my the experience of the NABARD, what we are doing in the space of financial inclusion for the small scale fisheries. So, can you share the?
Yes. Dugyu, can you?
Yeah, is it visible now?
Yes.
My presentation is visible?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So, just a few minutes. I like to. Is it moving?
No.
Yeah. So the NABARD is shortly is NABARD. We say it's National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. This is the largest development financial institution in India, and it's working since last 4 decades for the development of agriculture and rural areas. As you see in our mission statement, it's very broad to say that so we are working on sustainable and equitable agriculture, participative financial and non-financial interventions, innovations, technology, and institutional development. So broadly, NABARD is working, the major mandate of the NABARD is developmental role, the finance, and the supervisory roles. So we are working in all the 3 spheres. So that's in short about introduction about NABARD. It's a pan-India organization having collaborating with Government of India, state governments, NGOs, and the CBOs. So for the development of the people, economy related to agriculture and the rural areas. And before the going ahead, I'll just give a set the context for the fisheries and aquaculture status. So as we know, this is India is a vast country with the 3rd largest fish producer here, and presently it is around 16.25 million tons production, and the country aims to produce around 23.2 million tons of fish, and India also the 2nd largest aquaculture producer. And in terms of the exports, so we are the 4th largest fish and fisheries product exports, around $50 billion dollars exports is happening, and we aim to increase it to $100 billion. And it has been aggregated, it's a sunrise sector with the average annual growth of around 10% since 2014-15. And the government of India has come out with a very large scheme called Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampad Yojana. So where the large outlay has been kept for the increasing fish production, keeping a fisheries, the development of fisheries infrastructure, welfare of the people. Fisheries exports also, but it's almost 5% of the total exports of the country and accounts for almost 20% of the agri exports. And it's a source of livelihood for large section for economically underprivileged sections. So myself being here in the NABARD since last 2.5 decades, and prior experience of working in states and also in the ICR system. So I have worked in the ground level in the states of Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Odisha. So quite experience and involved in the fisheries sector. If you see the fishermen population, India is having almost the fishermen population of the Asia, almost half of the population are there in the fishermen population in India. So around 28 million there. It's marine fishermen populations around 13% of the population is marine fishermen, and inland fishermen is more. It's almost 86% with 24.2 million. And this is because India has a vast network of riverine sources and freshwater sources, particularly in the states of the Bihar, UP, and West Bengal. And there is a predominance of the small-scale fisheries in both inland and marine sectors. Particularly in the brackish water sectors, almost 90% of the fish farmers are belong to small and marginal category. They are small-scale fisheries, and women also contribute mostly towards this fisheries, with almost 70% of the workforce are they involved in post-harvest activities like marketing, especially marketing, because you see most of the fish markets, the retailing is done by the women. So this is in a nutshell about the fishery status in India. Coming to NABARD's interventions of fisheries and aquaculture since last 4 decades. So we can see there are 7 sectors or areas where NABARD is working, like area development scheme. This is one area where NABARD is preparing area development schemes in a cluster. And myself, I had also implemented one area development scheme when I worked in district in Odisha. So this is a area development scheme is a plan prepared by the NABARD based on the forward and backward linkages, taking into account all the types of fish farmers, bankers, and then implement it. So this was a successful scheme being implemented by NABARD. And second is research and development. NABARD supports the research organizations for taking the technology to the field, organizing seminars, conferences, symposia. So that also we are doing it every year. We provides a lot of grants to research institute seminars for organizing seminars. Then third important thing is what comes to financing infrastructure under RIDF and FIDF. So as we know that infrastructure is required for enabling increasing productivity, access to the markets. Then there is investment credit, short-term credit, refinance. So we are providing refinance to the banks, particularly to the RRBs and cooperative banks. Then next is credit planning. So this we have been doing it since 90s. We have been preparing potential linked credit plans for all the districts of the country at the block level, up to the block level. Then we prepare the model schemes for the bankers, model bankable schemes for financing fisheries. So we have a pool of fisheries exports distributed throughout the country. Then we prepare this unit cost, benchmark unit cost for financing, scale of finance for fisheries by the banks. Then we are also involved in organizing small and marginal farmers, small-scale farmers into organic APOs, fisheries producer organizations, farmers clubs. We do have some climate change projects and under the Adaptation Fund Board and the NFCC project, National Adaptation Fund for Climate Change. We are supporting also startups in the agriculture sector. Of course, fishery startups we are able to support in large numbers, except 1 or 2 startups we have supported. Then we coming to the major financial inclusion policy interventions, NABARD in the brief, as I told, it's refinance to the banks. So this is a major thing because we have been financing to the banks and at cheaper rates, so they can provide loans to the farmers at lower rate of interest. Long-term refinance at the cheapest rate around 3%, we're providing it to the banks. Then second intervention, which has been doing since 1990s, SHG bank linkage program. This was started by the NABARD as a pilot, and it is now the largest microfinance program in the world. We can say that almost it's almost 120 million people SHGs have been formed, and this is the big program for financing the particularly to the women members. And there is a third pilot also we launched, which has been streamlined, that is joint liability group. And this joint liability group mechanism has also had financing fisheries in states like Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, Tamil Nadu. Then fourth is the FPOs, the Fish Farmers Producer Organizations. So Fish Farmers Producer Organizations, specific Fish Farmers Producer Organizations, NABARD has promoted so far in the last 3-4 years, 135 FPOs throughout the country. And we do also financing for fisheries because we have subsidiaries. So we have one specific subsidiary for financing FPOs, which has been financing FPOs in a large scale like NAFPISA. So it's it's the largest FPO financing organization in the country. Then this intervention of the Kisan credit card for fishers and fish farmers. This was introduced in 2019. So NABARD is working with the banks and the government of India and state governments to make this scheme popular. And this even also NABARD, the presently I am associated with a project for the digital innovations in KCC, making the preparing online platform to be used by the farmers so that sitting at home they can apply for a loan. They need not go to the bank branch, visit so many times. So in KCC electronic KCC platform is being developed. So it is here. It will be used for both fisheries, agriculture, and all types of farmers. Then financing infrastructure fisheries through RIDF and FIDF. In subsequent slides, I'll be telling about that. If I just, this slide shows the refinance provided by NABARD for fisheries and aquaculture. Of course, this is demand based. So last 10 years, this is the refinance provided by us. So as you see that mostly we are financing it for the cooperative banks and RRBs because these are the research for institutions and they are catering mostly to the rural areas for the small and marginal farmers. Coming to the fisheries infrastructure creation, because unless there is infrastructure there, the productivity of the fishermen will not have to happen. So even also for financial inclusion to happen, the infrastructure is very much required. We have a fund called Rural Infrastructure Development Fund. In that, two fisheries activities like fishing harbors and jetties and riverine fisheries development. So almost as of now, almost 1,211 projects have been sanctioned to 15 states, covering amount of 32,486 million rupees. And besides this, also we have created roads, bridges connecting to the fishing harbors, fish landing centers, fishermen villages, so that they can have a better access to the markets, access to the financial institutions. So myself, I have associated with this type of projects in Andhra Pradesh. I have seen how fishermen villages are connected with a Pakka road, and they are benefited with this infrastructure. So this is an enabler for development. Then NABARD is also doing infrastructure development with another fisheries and aquaculture infrastructure development fund, where these activities brought almost 15 activities are there for fisheries infrastructure, where NABARD is supporting and to the state governments. So here fishing harbors and jetties, 17 fishing harbors and jetties have been sanctioned since 2019-20. The projects are under implementation, different stages. These seed farms, because seed is very much required for the successful aquaculture operations. These landing centers, training centers, cold chain, these farms, gift hatchery, even tilapia is picking up as a species production in India. Because all throughout, mostly the carp was constructed, now diversification is happening. Ornamental fisheries, food banks. So this is almost 22,219 million we have sanctioned. So in that context, the fisheries is doing, they will take a big leap for in coming years, and that will definitely lead to the development of the sector, and NABARD is playing a great role for the development of fisheries. And I will just add few slides and just show a few slides on successful, because there are many interventions where NABARD is intervenes for financial inclusion. One of the success stories I can showcase to you here that there was a FPO formed for in Barpeta district of Assam, and the district is having almost 25,289 ponds and tanks and 77 bills. Bills means it is upslope lakes, and the river range stretch up to 71 kilometers for capture and culture fishery development. Like all other places, as I told, there are a lot of fish farmers and the small scale fishermen are there, but they have a lack of access to markets. In the entire fisheries value chain, if you see that the almost 30% of the value is realized by the farmers, but 70% goes to the middleman because of the lack of there is chain in the market access. So technology for improving productivity, quality imports. So address all these solutions. NABARD promoted one FPO in that districts with 506 farmers in 5 villages comprising farmers. In 1922, it have supported 1.14 million for capacity building, training, formation, and infrastructure development in convergence with the government of the Assam. So they developed a fish, wholesale fish market where all the members will come and sell their fishes. Earlier, they were depending upon the local market where they have to pay high commission. So in that way, the APO is making a business of 8.6 millions. So they're collecting and selling it there. So they are going to reduce commission charges at the rate of 5.5%. Earlier it was 9.5%. In that sense, the income of the farmers have improved, and seeing the collective mobilization of the farmers and their bargaining power, and they now want to develop a hatchery, feed mill, and ice plant to increase the fish production and their income. So this is a successful APO. There are some like that. Many APOs are there. Around 135 APOs have been successfully formed and they are operating. And a few APOs also NABARD has NABARD subsidiary Kisan Private Limited. This is Kisan has also supported them. So we are also encouraging banks. We prepared the guidelines also how to finance these APOs. So NABARD has prepared these guidelines and circulated to all banks and financing institutions because our subsidiary has a limited capacity to finance. So in that sense, there are many large number of commercial banks or their banking network is there. But to popularize them and tell them that financing APOs is a valuable option. So that's why we have circulated the guidelines. Then the second success story is the development of fields through our RIDF, where the large number of resources are there. The wetlands are there in the India, particularly in the eastern belt of the Assam, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar. A lot of wetlands are there. These wetlands are valuable with the natural resources for increasing fish production and productivity. So NABARD has supported under its RIDF development of these bills with creating ponds, dikes, hatcheries, so that the productivity of these bills increases. So that has we had made evaluation of these our investments, and it has increased production by up to 90%, generated additional income, and it has also contributed to the ecology and environments. So in that way, as I told in the very beginning, NABARD is working for the sustainable development of the fisheries sector and also the inclusive development, taking into account the requirement of the farmers, which are marginalized farmers, even scheduled caste and backward sections and small fishermen. Next, third success story, which I would like to highlight, is that is the success of taking of fish culture by women self-help groups. This basically the self-help groups are very poor women. They start people from the below poverty line status, people which are having to create a livelihood for fisheries. So there are about 0.6 million SAGs in Odisha, comprising about 7 million women members. So these are mostly low-income groups, and they are taking up livelihood activities of fisheries now. The government of Odisha has come out with scheme fish farming Gram Panchayat tanks in 2018, which is being financed, for which finance is provided with the banks. The required training and the capacity building is also given. So in this women SSG groups, they are provided GP tanks on lease. So government has provided almost 4,400 GP tanks on lease, on long-term lease of 3 to 5 years to the women SSGs, and they are taking up fish farming. And by that, their income, family income has increased, and there is no problem in marketing of the fish because the demand and supply situation in the India or the South in anywhere in India, it's the demand supply gap is there, plus huge demand is there. Per capita fish consumption in India is about 6 kg as against the requirement of the something around 11 or 12 kg, and this has supplemented also nutritional income of the women. And there is some other projects of wild fish is also going on in the Odisha to support the fisheries, like for the even also fish being served spread as a pilot in the midday meal scheme of the school children. So these are the successful interventions, these schemes where NABARD is working for the financial inclusion of the small scale fish farmers. So this is what, thank you. It's a Fish for Health and Fish for Wealth and the Fish for Financial Inclusion also. So it's a nutshell to say about what NABARD is doing for fisheries development financing. Thank you. If any questions are there, I would like to happy to take it.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Das. We'll try to take all the questions towards the end as we have a few more presentations lined up. So it's truly Fish for Health and Fish for Wealth that you have addressed so correctly in your and nicely in your presentation, and walking us through the India experience on inclusive financial access provision to the fisheries sector, where entire gamut of services for the fishery sector has been addressed, right from freshwater, brackish water to the marine sector, including the hatchery, seed development, all too. So with this, we would like to move quickly to our next speaker, who is joining us from Tanzania. I would like to welcome Mr. Maragesi Shaban. He's the head of agribusiness for CRDB Bank in Tanzania. Mr. Maragesi has over 2 decades experience in banking sector and is currently in charge of managing CRDB's agribusiness portfolio that is valued at US dollars 334 million. He's also responsible for strategic planning to enhance and promote financial inclusion within the agriculture and allied sector, including fisheries within Tanzania. So, Mr. Maragesi, over to you.
Thank you, and good afternoon and good morning for some who are still in East Africa. So Chitra, do you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
And I hope Suchitra will share my presentation from your side, is it?
Yes, we'll do that.
Yeah, as I've been introduced, my name is Maragesi Shaban, working with the CRDB Bank PLC in the position of head of agribusiness. And with my today's presentation, I'll talk a bit about what CRDB is doing and a few remarks on type of projects, economic sectors that the bank is financing. And I'll also touch base on the potentials that the country has in fishing sector, in the blue economy pattern, and the financing scope that the bank is supporting in the blue economy, and the way the bank is mitigating the risks, associated risks to financing, especially to the small scale fishers. I will also touch base on how tactically are we ring-fencing the cash flow and minimize the default risk without forgetting the digital innovations to support the fishers, especially the small-scale fishers. And as the topic needs us to talk on how the policies are supporting the sector. So I'll also show up on how the government support is helping the fishing sector in Tanzania. And finally, I'll touch a bit on how far have we gone in terms of financial support in the blue economy at large. Next. Yeah, about CRDB. CRDB is a commercial bank originating from Tanzania, but now cross-boarding to other East African region countries. We already have presence in Burundi, and this quarter we are going to open up another outlet in DRC Congo. So our aim is to support not only Tanzanians, but all actors in the value chain across the region in Africa. Next. Yeah, these are some of the economic sectors that the bank has supported so far. We are having diversified sort of economic projects that the bank has been supporting. Given the need of the infrastructure development for economic development at large, including the agri-sector, we have been participating in various projects, as you can see. Construction of huge airports, construction of the new standard gauge railway, SGR, rural electrification. We are also supporting major real estate projects, hotels and tourism, oil and gas, pharmaceutical, general trading, technical and communication, telecommunication and related projects. But in the agri-sector, we are also leading in terms of agricultural finance, including the fishing aspect. And our exposure in agri is around 320 million USD. And this counts to about 43% of total agricultural finance in this country. And with support to blue economy, we are having international partners who are partnering with us. And they have been supporting the bank in terms of liquidity to enhance financial inclusion in blue economy as well. So we are having GCF, Global Climate Fund, which is having around 200 million USD. Recently we have signed another engagement with the European Investment Bank, under which we will access 150 million euros to support agricultural sector, including support to the blue economy and fishing. Next. As Tanzania, we are having a lot of potential in fishing sector. Our land size is around 945,000 square kilometers, out of which 60% is arable land suitable for agri. And we are having also, is among the countries in the Great Lakes, and our share in the Great Lakes is around 54,000 square kilometers. We are also having minor inland waters, totaling to around 5,000 square kilometers. We are also having bordering to the Indian Ocean, with territorial sea having a total of 64,000 square kilometers along the shore, which is having over 1,400 kilometers long. And as a country, we are having the so-called exclusive economic zone, with the potential of fishing to the water body with a water size of 223,000 square kilometers. And the country is also endowed with aquaculture potential in caging and fishy ponds projects. And the geographical diversity we have is suitable for multiple production in agriculture, livestock, and fishing, as I've said. And in this country, the agri sector at large employs around 75% of the total population of the country. And mind you, we did the census last year, and we are approaching around 62 million Tanzanians. So out of 62 million Tanzanians, 75% in one way or another involved in agriculture sector, but the sector is still contributing around 25% of our total GDP. So there is a lot to be done to transform the sector so that it can increase productivity and also increase our gross domestic product. Next. As a bank, we are having financing scope among actors in the fishing sector. And under this, we are supporting fishing in terms of fisheries by giving all necessary fishing gears, including boats, fish finders, fish nets, and those safety gears that are needed for fishers to do their work safely. We also support aquaculture by meaning deep and shallow water seaweed farming, sea cucumber farming, and the other type of fishing that is found in the sector. But we are also, in a way, supported by special cooperations initiated on both parties of the United Republic of Tanzania. You know, the Tanzanian country is resulting from the unification of Zanzibar and mainland Tanzania. And in mainland Tanzania, we are having Tanzania Fisheries Cooperation, while in Zanzibar, we are having Zanzibar Fishing Cooperation, under which in mainland, we are having the Ministry of Livestock and Fisheries as one ministry supporting the blue economy initiatives, while in Zanzibar, we are having the Ministry of Blue Economy and Fisheries. So we are working jointly with both organs to initiate viable projects and support the investors in fishing sector at different levels so that they can easily access finance and put in place all required environment and policies that will enable them to produce and invest well in the sector. Next. Fishing sector risks are there, but always risks are having the ways of mitigating them. And in CRDB, we are also designing several modes on how to mitigate the risks as we finance from small scale level fishing, medium level to the large scale level. So we use guarantee cover. We are partnering with several partners. Some are local and some are international. And a few of them I've mentioned. There is an organization known as Past Trust. There is our Agricultural Development Bank, TADB. There is African Guarantee Fund. There is GCF, as I've said, and European Investment Bank, Aceli Africa, and Propaco, among others. So these are giving us room for provision of guarantee to cushion the collateral and securities inadequacies, because most of fishers do not have tangible collaterals that are sufficiently covering their exposure. We also use tripartite agreement to ring-fence cash flow and provide market assurance. And under this, when we finance the small-scale fisher, we link them with key off-takers. And from this, we are having reliable market for their fish once they are captured. and they are sold. And once it is sold, sales proceeds from the off-takers are routed through our borrower's account opened at CRDB Bank PLC. We are also having insurance cover for businesses, stock, collaterals, and we have gone a step further to provide health insurance cover to small-scale fishers and small-scale farmers. We have partnered with the National Health Insurance Fund, NHIF, to the level under which the bank now is supporting these fishers and small-scale farmers to get amount for premium to be paid, so for them to get medical cover, which is renewable every year. And under this product, we do not charge any fee or costs on top of that. It is interest-free, and it does not have any loan fees on top of it. So what we give is a principal amount for premium required to be paid to the National Health Insurance Fund, and the National Health Insurance Fund issues a medical card for farmers and fishers, plus their families, their entire families. So this helps them to access medical service at their village level, to the district, to the regional, even to the levels of international level, of the national level, under which they can be get treated and get medication, the right medication when they feel and they fall sick. So we are determined to sustain their health, because productivity will be sustainable if the investors are healthy. That is our belief. Apart from that, we are mobilizing these small-scale fishers into groups or blocks, for those who are doing block farming or block fishing. And this adds us more comfort in terms of group guarantee, because when you want to finance fishers in isolation, they are so mobile to the level which you cannot monitor them easily. But through groups, each group is having the leaders, and leaders are the ones who are introducing the members to us for financing. And once financing is done, at the time we go for monitoring or follow-up for collection of loans, there is a specific area to go, specific leadership, which is helping them as their umbrella to make sure that they get services to the bank easier. So small-scale fishers, initially we saw them as too mobile and riskier to be monitored, but through the umbrella of the fisher groups, AMCOS and association, we have mitigated this. And we have enhanced innovation and digitalization of service delivery channels to make sure that there is flexibility for our clients to access the banking service 24 hours, 7 days a week. So anytime the fisher is having an account with CRDB, he can transact through even their mobile phones without necessarily traveling long distances to the formal branches, outlets. So this has eased the means of making them happy to be paid through the formal banking systems, and which is also easier for them to access their funding, and they can also be saved from their localities. Next. We have designed another model on how to ring-fence and minimize default risk. We are using the so-called tripartite agreement arrangement so that small-scale fishers can access loans from bank, and they are also linked with the key off-takers. So we sign a tripartite agreement that whatever will be captured in the sea or lakes or water bodies will be having access to the market under the contract that is signed between the off-taker and the fishers. Apart from that, the fishers also guarantees us that they will route the sales proceeds of our small-scale fishers through CRDB bank account. So we find that this model is helping us to move from traditional lending model of depending much on traditional collaterals to cash flow based collateral. So once someone is having a contract, and the contract is ring-fenced in this manner. It helps us to get assurance of being paid. It gives us the comfort that the market is there, so the risk of default is minimized. Next. With regard to digital innovation to support fishers, the bank has automated and introduced digital platform to serve its clientele base. And this starts from when the loans are processed. The loans are processed through digital platforms, and this has minimized our turnaround time to the level which now is very good, because we can save as many as small-scale fishers, as many as small-scale farmers as we can with a literal turnaround time. And this goes with the calendar of investment as per plan that investors will be having. We have introduced bank agents across our country network. And as we speak, we are having over 22,000 CRDB bank agents, under which our clients can be served from their localities, whereby we are giving point of sale to normal traders who are having normal shops, even to farmer groups or fisher groups. They can be given this point of sales so that fishers can deposit funds or withdraw cash without necessarily traveling long distances to search for banking service. As I've said before, mobile phone service is up and running. Whoever is having an account with us can transact from his fingertips or her fingertips. And off-takers are given internet banking service. And with this internet banking services, it enables them to pay in batch. They can make lump sum payment to several sellers of fish at once. And once payment is done, every small-scale fisher gets the message that he has been credited with a certain amount. And with this model, it has helped them to be able to do their job without wasting much time in search for banking services. So this is the model we are using. And the use of digital guarantees, some of our partners have transformed from manual application of guarantee cover to automated mode. So once a client is vetted and the KYC is done, there are certain limits that are allowed for them just to apply through their cell phone. And this automates generation of group guarantee, digital guarantee for the loan that has been taken. So this has helped them to meet short-term financial needs without submitting manual applications to the bank. We are also enhancing our availability by making integration with other key players, being them distributors or other players in the industry, so that they can leverage on our wide network to serve our clients who are connected to them in one way or another, being off-takers or being other suppliers of inputs and implements or feeds. So this is the model we are using. Next. With regard to government support in fishing sector, actually the government is attracting more investors in economic sector. So the environment for investors is very conducive. As a result, now we are leveraging on partnership, not only for local partnership, but also for international partners. As we have seen, recently the bank has accessed funds from GCF and European Investment Bank to boost funding and financial inclusion in agriculture without forgetting the blue economy aspect. Introduction of government guarantee. The government has also introduced government guarantee to support lenders like CRDB to give funding to the fishing community with guarantee from the government. And this guarantee cover is a bit unique. it covers the exposure at 100%, unlike other partners who are supporting by covering only 50 to 60%. And the largest or the maximum they can go is 80% for some specific groups like youth and women. But for this government guarantee to fishers, it has covered 100%, especially for funding that goes to small-scale fishers. And government is also supporting us in terms of introduction of incubation centers that are used to train youth and women on fishing, on best fishing practices. So this has also given us mileage, whereby youth are trained and actually they become knowledgeable on how to handle the fishing projects before they access funding to the bank. So the risk of just giving funds to people who do not know how the project works is minimized through this collaboration with the government. And the government is also assisting us on both parties of the union to form farmer and fisher groups. Fisher groups are also mobilizing in terms of agricultural and marketing cooperative society, the AMCOS, and all fisher associations. So this has given us mileage, not only to easily identify and locate them wherever we need to save them or to collect the funds given by the bank, but it has helped us even the way to conduct training to fishers. You get them collectively under one umbrella of their fisher groups. Apart from that, the government also is helping us on registration of the fishing gears that we are giving to fishers, like boats. Boats are giving unique registration number to the level which now can be taken to be part of the collaterals as chattel mortgage. So, and we have been also doing joint training and capacity building to fishers in collaboration with both ministries from either part of the union, with Blue Economy and Fisheries in Zanzibar and the Ministry of Livestock and Fishing in the mainland Tanzania. And actually, we are involved much during a review of the policies governing investment in fishing sector. We have been attending several occasions, several seminars, several forums with key players in formulating the policies which are friendly to the investment in the sector. So this has given the banks confidence in advancing more funding in fishing. Next. Now, what have we done as a bank? Actually, before this initiative, we had been doing support in the sector, especially in the blue economy sector, but only little has been done. But with this initiative, we have managed to increase our fishing portfolio to around 10 million USD in the recent past, almost in the cycle 2 years back. And our aim by end of December is to reach a minimum loan portfolio of 30 million USD. So we see this is upcoming and it helps us to support more in terms of fishing and transform the sector from being subsistence into commercial. There was limited access in banking service. Now we have extended our banking service in both parts of the union. Specifically in the islands of Zanzibar, we had only one outlet. Now we have increased the outlet to 4 branches, apart from bank agents and the other digital channels that our clients are using. And thirdly, we were perceiving fishing sector as high risk because of high mobility of small-scale fishers. Now, with collaboration with the government, formation of groups, registration of financed fishing gears has helped us to trace them easily, to train them in under one umbrella, and also to take additional collateral for the fishing gear that has been financed. We perceived that there was inadequate collaborative effort in supporting fishing sector. Now the government is differently acting on both parties. The two ministries from either side are supporting us and are promoting the sector, including initiation of the incubation centers. Actually, little was done in supporting deep sea fishing value addition in terms of fish processing and storage facilities. Yes, I can admit that this is still a long way to go because this nature of investment are capital intensive. We are still promoting value addition. We are supporting those who can invest in deep sea fishing because by so doing, it means we'll create and widening up the market for small scale fishers to do it. So this is the time we are going with. And what we have identified so far is the knowledge gap for fishers. They do not have adequate knowledge, but we are supporting them through training, and we are doing it jointly as a bank, guarantors, and the government officials. And this slide now shows how are we transforming the sector on contribution that the bank has done. Now we are transforming the previous traditional fishing gears to modern. We have started giving fiber boats with boat engines, and this can help them to go far and also preserve the fishing, the product that they are catching without necessarily coming back after every short time as the case was before. And the photo below, the picture which you can see below is the president of Zanzibar handing over the fiber boat, one among the fiber boats financed by the bank, to fishers. So this is how we collaborate with government officials and the ministries and the government institution at large to upscale our financial inclusion in fishing sector. Next. So I thank you so much for listening, and I'll be having some few minutes to hear from your side. And I expect to join another meeting in 15 minutes. So I'll be having some 15 minutes to continue with this discussion if the organizers will allow me, based on the timetable that you have put in place. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Maragesi, for joining us today. And thank you for sharing a detailed overview of the fisheries sector in Tanzania and how CRDB is currently investing to increase the fisheries portfolio. It is interesting to note how the bank has used the tripartite agreements to ring fence the cash flows and provide market assurance, and also has gone to the next step to provide health insurance to the fishers. The focus of government on youth and the women is also equally important because they are an active contributor to the rural economy. And it is also one of the good models I see, the way all the stakeholders, including the government, a commercial bank, as well as agriculture banks, have come together to support this sector. I don't know if we'll be able to take any questions at this point of time. Because we have, as it is, we are running a little late behind the schedule, and we have 2 more presentations lined up. So Mr. Maragesi, in case there are any questions, we will try to send those to you as soon as, if any of our stakeholders, if our participants have. But right now we need to move to the next presentation. And I think Africa is already here. So in case, if there are questions, maybe Mr. SL may be able to address it a little later, and even John Amino is there. So thank you very much, Maragesi.
Thank you, Suchitra.
Yeah. With this, we would like to move quickly to the next presentation. It is by Mr. Lee Than Chung. He is the Deputy Director, International Cooperation and Communication Department. from the Vietnam Bank for Social Policies. He has a career span close to 3 decades as staff of training department in Vietnam Bank in VBARD. And from 2003 onwards, he's associated with VBSP and responsible for dealing with foreign affairs and projects funded by international donors. So, Mr. Chung, over to you. Please be mindful, we have only 15 minutes. Thank you.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Hello, good afternoon. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Chung, we can hear you.
Okay. So, good afternoon, everybody. Okay, thank you very much for inviting me to the webinar. And I'd like to share you, just to save your time, more than 10 minutes, 15 minutes, about the fishery sector in Vietnam and the credit given by the major banks in Vietnam to fishery sector. So, okay, can you move the screen for me, Suchira? Okay, next, please. Okay, my presentation will be actually divided into 3 parts. First, I will talk very briefly about the fishery sector in Vietnam, and the second one, I will make an overview on the bank loans to the fishery sector in Vietnam, and the last one about our institution, the Bank of Assistance Policies, history, and its credit to fishery sector. Okay, let's move to our first part, the general information. Vietnam, as you may know already, located in Southeast Asia, with a land area more than 300,000 kilometers and 3,000 coastline kilometers. And fishery production, the total number in 2020 more than 8 million tons. And actually the production catching almost 4 million tons, and aquaculture a little bit more, 4.5 million tons. Okay, export turnover in 2020 almost 8.5 billion US dollars, and the industry takes a labor force of more than 4 million people. And actually, fishery is a key national economic sector of Vietnam, contributing to some 4 to 5% of the gross domestic products, and around 10% of the total national export turnover. And it ranks as the 5th place in export value of Vietnam. Next, please. Okay. For fishery production, the general picture for almost 25 years, from 1955 to 2020, Vietnam's fishery output increased strongly, increasing by 6 times. And the average annual rate and growth rate 8%. And it's divided actually into 3. The production consists of 2 parts: aquaculture, farming production, and the capture. Next, please. Okay, about aquaculture. For the last over more than 25 years, aquaculture increased by 11 times. And aquaculture for sports were mostly concentrated mainly in Mekong River Delta, accounting for like 5% of total pangasius production and 80% upstream production. Next, please. Okay, about the catching. The catching also increased, around 6% for the past over 20 years. Next, please. Next slide, please. Okay. And now talking about the export of sea products. During the last 25 years, export increased 11 times. And the annual average growth rate about 10%. And now it reached, around $8.5 billion, as you can see in the chart. Let's move to the next. Next slide, please. Okay. Okay. Now about a little bit details about the export products, just mainly two species. First, shrimp. Shrimps accounted for the highest proportion, and now the value, annual value is about $3.7 billion per annum. And the second one is pangasius. Export value increased more than 160 times, and the annual growth rate of 26%. However, during the last few years, due to several reasons, the growth rate dropped from 30% to now just 80%. Okay, the export market. Vietnam exports seafood to more than 160 markets around the world. However, the biggest markets include US, European Union, Japan, China, Korea, Asian countries, Australia, UK, Canada, and Russia. So these 10 countries, imports about 89% of the total seafood Vietnam export. Thank you. Next slide. Next slide, please. Now, please. Okay. I like to go to the second. Is bank credit supports aquaculture, fishery, and exporting in Vietnam. The major banks in Vietnam taking part in fishery finance include the Vietnam Bank for Rural Development, AgriBank, Vietcombank, and ACB, Postbank. They are the biggest finance providers in the fishery sector. And as of December last year, the total loan outstanding for fishery is about $8 billion. So the number increased by 12% as compared to 2021. But it just accounted for around less than 1/4 of the total loan portfolio given to agriculture, forestry, and fishery industries. And for processing and exporting pangasius, $1.5 billion US. Okay. For shrimp US, $2 billion US. So the banks are the main source of capital in the in agriculture and fishery industry. During the last 3 years, 4 years, as you may know, the industry also much affected by COVID-19. So a lot of problem raising. The total turnover raised this year as compared to the last year, and is the reason. And a lot of things just like pangasius export value decreasing. Is a reason why last year the Central Bank of Vietnam, the SBV, requires banking sector to have quick and reasonable action to probably meet the capital needs of the fishery sector by, let's say, simplifying the procedures, or shorten the approval process and decrease the lending rates. Next, please. Okay, now I move to the third part of my presentation. It's about my institution. Vietnam Bank for Social Policies. It's financial inclusion and fishery lending. Just very quick about the VBSP overview. Actually, the VBSP created 20 years ago, and it was a part of Vietnam Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, AgriBank. And 20 years ago, the government decided to separate the policy-based lending from the commercial lending. So it's a reason why VBSP established. Next slide, please. Okay, now VBSP, we have the headquarters located in Hanoi capital, with the board of management, board of directors, and the functional departments. In Hanoi also, we have transaction center, IT center, training center, and we have 63 branches in all cities nationwide, and we have more than 700 district transaction offices. And under the district, we have more than 11,000 communes in transaction points at communes levels. Now we have 6.5 million active customers with a total loan outstanding with around $12 billion US. And we run by credit schemes. Now we are running more than 20 credit programs, and the major programs are lending to the poor, students loans, job creation, housing for the poor, etc. Next slide, please. Okay. Along with the comprehensive financial trend over the world. 4 years ago, the government of Vietnam launched what they call the National Comprehensive Financial Strategy. So the main actor, the administrator is a state of Vietnam. And the vision towards, we under the strategy, we focus on, restructuring, completing the management structure, and sanctioning lending models as a network. And we focus also on the diversifying basic financial product and services, and with a target to the vulnerable groups like the poor or other disadvantaged or vulnerable groups in the society. Okay, and now a lot of achievement have been made during the last 3 or 4 years. Now the poor can access much easier, faster, and more convenient to the financial services provided by the bank, and they got a lot of education on financial literacy, and I think that helps the poor a lot to escape from the poverty. It's the duty, and also it's the mission of our bank. Next slide, please. Okay, now talking about the fishery sector of lending implemented by VBSP. Actually, yeah, around 1/4 of Vietnamese population gets involved in the financial services provided by our institution. Our clients main as small scale and people, or we call it households. Okay, they borrow mostly for job creation, and and for the small scale businesses. And most of our clients, located in remote areas, in rural areas, in coastal lines over the country, including the poor fishers. And our clients mainly invest in agroforestry production industries, including fisheries. As I mentioned earlier, we do not, separate our loan portfolio by sectors, by segments. Okay, we run the the loans by the programs, by the credit schemes. However, thanks to the help of our IT center, I got some figures. Because when our customers apply for loans, they must declare what the loan is used for. And according to the reporting system, VBSP has more than 21,000 customers declaring for loans for fisheries, including aquaculture and captures, with a small amount of $35 million. And our loan outstanding concentrated on the provinces which large water surface area or freshwater aquaculture or coastal provinces. Next slide, please. Okay. Actually, during just a short period of time, and I must be honest that I'm not a fishery, expert. I'm just, field officer in microcredit sector. And but I try my best to give you just some information. And thank you very much for your attention. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chung, for your nice presentation. And it is really notable to see how VBSB has targeted clients by providing financial literacy, which is one of the biggest gaps to address. And I think VBSB is clearly doing that, and how it has provided loans to particularly small scale aquaculture producers, being covering most of the freshwater water bodies. So I think, and it is your modesty to say that, you're just a field person, but I think it is equally important that how, the microcredit or the credit needs to be addressed, and what is the turnaround time, and what are the various processes that needs to be addressed to provide the loans. So thank you so much once again for sharing the information with us. And with this now, I'm extremely sorry and I apologize to everyone that we are really running behind time. But I would like to move quickly to our next speaker, Dr. Prasoon Kumar Das, Secretary General, Asia Pacific Rural and Agricultural Credit Organization. Dr. Prasoon has been the project manager of IFAD regional grant projects before joining Africa, and also has been a rural finance specialist in FAO. He's also worn another hat, that is Associate Professor, Agribusiness Research Director. He's also been a Research Director in DFID regional grant projects. He has held senior positions in public sector commercial banks and has been a consultant advisor on rural and agriculture development to various national governments in South and Southeast Asia. So one of our biggest, one of our founding supporters and founding members of CAFI-SSF Network. So Dr. Prasoon, over to you for the role of national networks in ensuring financial inclusion to SSF in Asia. Please share your experiences.
Thank you, Suchitra. I do not have a screen as such. I think we have small time. I will take only 5 minutes to just to narrate that what actually we are doing in collaboration with FAO and other APRACA member institutions. So, so good afternoon again from Bangkok, and to good afternoon to all other from Europe and Africa. I think our distinguished speakers and they did justice to their task. So I do not have much to say, but just to bring and flag some of the important issues which, as a financial sector or as a supply side of the ecosystem, we do not take much of the interest. So the first flag here is that I will be specifically speaking about the Asian region, that we do have in this region vibrant fisher folk organizations in the form of cooperatives or who are being supported by the government, line departments, NGOs, and the development agencies like FAO. And most of the fish producing, but the contrary, most of the fish producing countries in Asia are producer consumer, except few of them, China, Japan, India, some Vietnam. But even in Vietnam, our colleagues shown that they are exporting, but at the same time they're importing some of the fish products. So majorly where I want to build a narrative here, that there is a need for transformation. And working in the financial sector, working in the development sector, I understand that finance or access to finance is no dance. There is a plus requirement, and that plus is basically kind of a network. And this network will not support only the financial institutions, but they need to support the business development services. I think our colleague from Africa, Tanzania, he was telling about the fishermen boats. They transform the boats. But to get the boats, we need to have a business development services because they are the important part of the ecosystem. So sometimes we forget that these people, those who are supporting the small scale fishers, are also part of the ecosystem. So these development service, business development services, or the vendor development services, whatever you say, can be a part of the whole ecosystem. And in this, my experience of working in 3 countries, Philippines, Thailand, and Indonesia, with the SSF communities during the last 5 years, we need much more to do the SF for the SSFs, for sustainable and inclusive financial service. So when you do a financial service, it's not the end. So we need to understand that the ecosystem doesn't only look into the technology or the financial services, but there are some of the missing links. So we need to come out with some kind of common understanding to support these missing links. And to me, the missing link is kind of national network. And this national network, what we are trying here in Thailand and the Philippines as a voluntary, non-political, and very much focused on the financial inclusion plus activities. So financial inclusion in one side, technology in other side, the 2 major pillars, but there are some cross cuttings. So we are actually trying to support those cross cuttings also. And the members of this national network need to be consisted of the government line departments, financial institutions, industry associations, not only the Fisher Group, but Fisher Group will also be there. NGOs, INGOs, development agencies, all of them. So what they will do, they will basically provide a platform for all the ecosystem players to come and join to facilitate the capacity and influence the policies. So not only facilitate, but influence the policy to serve as a venue for knowledge, exchanges, share experiences as we are doing now, and then to provide necessary support to to develop sustainable, inclusive financial services. So here, why I said sustainable is also important, because not only the inclusive, but it has to be sustainable. So all this together is our national network. So far, we have been able to organize PhilNet SSF, which is a Philippines national network for the SSF, and ThaiNet SSF, which is Thailand national network for the SSF, which are still active, but we need further support for its sustainability. So I think I stop here. Thank you for your patience hearing. Back to you, Suchitra. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Prasoon, for sharing such important views and how we should go forward in terms of having a sustainable network development and also inclusive financial services for the SSF. So from here, we will move to the closing remarks, which will be presented by Mr. Thomas TSL. Mr. SL is the Secretary General, African Rural and Agriculture Credit Association, that is Africa. Africa is also a founding member organization of the CAFI-SSF Network. To introduce Mr. SL, he has, at Africa, he has provided leadership in collaboration programs with the governments in Africa and to a number of development partners. Prior to joining Africa, he worked in Bank of Ghana as head of external financial relations, and head of Bank of Ghana initiated incentive-based risk-sharing system for agricultural lending, which is also called GIRSAL, by providing strategic and technical guidance to the management. So, Mr. SL, over to you for sharing your views.
You are muted,
I think
sir.
you're muted. You're muted.
Good. Thank you very much, Suchitra, for the able manner in which you have steered the affairs of this webinar. I first of all want to thank the presenters. We have Raymond, we have Dash, we have Maragesi, we have Chung, we have Prasoon. It's been a really insightful webinar with experiences shared from various countries. And I believe that we have enriched ourselves as we come to the end of this program. And there are a few things that I noted during all the presentations. When Raymond was giving the overview, she made it clearly what the situation is on the ground, the food insecurity situation that we are approaching after COVID, the zero hunger situation, which is worsening, and the importance of fish as vitamins for all categories of people in our populations, and the need to have a priority. And I'm glad that FAO is making that priority of aquaculture and blue economy expansion, because they see this as the real transformation that can make fish available to all of us, to get the nutrients, to get the vitamins, to get all the proteins that we need. And what is also significant about this submission is that financial inclusion, as from FAO's point of view, is the key that will unlock finance for the small scale fishes. And it is important that financial institutions and governments look at this as a priority. And I'm also glad that he encouraged the CAFI-SSF platform to continue to work in this area and to promote it. So a lot of kudos to Suchitra for spearheading the CAFI-SSF program and even getting this webinar going. Finishing on Raymond, I will say that financial service access is key for small scale fisheries sector. And that if we really want to transform the sector of the blue economy, then it is essential that we look at how finance and bring together all the things we need to promote the sector. And then from that, we also had some cue from NABAD. And NABAD summed it all. If you look at even their mission, it's very interesting. You could see that the mission encompasses promoting sustainable and equitable agriculture, participation of financial institutions and non-financial institutions, which is key. And then bringing in innovations and technology and institutional development. What I will add to this is also to bring in also partnerships, which has been mentioned throughout all the presentations. And from some of the presentations, you could clearly see that if you look at the post-harvest side of small-scale fisheries, women are increasingly dominating the activities. And it is something that we must watch and then try to see how we can support that sector. The refinancing of financial institutions, particularly microfinance institutions, is a very good thing that NABAD is also doing. And I believe that with more resources, with more guidance, with more capacity building, we should be able to reach more and more people in terms of financial inclusion. It's also noteworthy the kinds of infrastructure that they are supporting. I also realized that from the Africa presentation from Tanzania, they were also supporting some infrastructure, and that is good. And good stories which are successful that they shared with us, the Bapita district experience, the fishing farming of women in Odisha are things that are good examples for us to emulate. Coming on Vietnam, we also see their support for the small-scale fisheries sector. And what impressed me most, particularly at looking at some of the graphs, is that since 1995, increasingly, in fact, you could see the graph climbing increasingly up to 2020. And that shows that they are doing something good. And from the presentation, you could see that one, they have strengthened the models in financial institutions for lending to the sector. And then they are also diversifying basic financial products and services. In fact, we should not look at all the small-scale fishes as one population in a bowl. There are differences in them. They have differences in needs. Those who go are fishing, the fishers have their needs, the value chain actors, the women have their needs, the men have their needs, and they have designed structures of ensuring diversification of services to target specific groups. And this is something that is very good. And they do this by training, education, and using digital services. Tanzania's was also very clear. Those things standing out in Tanzania are that, one, they work through the group funding. And it's important to note that they have also been working with partners, including Acheli, governments, GCF, and some banks. And this aspect of their work is also very good. They have a tripartite arrangement, which also strengthens their ability to lend more and to reduce risks. And then apart from that, they also have insurance, which tries to bring in a lot of risky small-scale operators into the net of financial inclusion. And more importantly, they are also using digitization. This is a mode through which we can speed up financial inclusion. And it is good that all the countries are also looking at that. Dr. Prasoon also touched on the role of national networks in financial inclusion. And he noted the vibrancy of organizations in Asia that are working in this area and noted the kind of support that they need from partners. So the partnership issue is still ringing. It is important. And more importantly, he also sees that we should see the financial inclusion as an ecosystem where we look at each particular contribution of things that come in. And he mentioned business development services, which is key and which can promote what they are doing. Coming to an end, we also mentioned the absence of national networks as a missing link. And I fully agree. There must be some kind of coordinating institution that oversees all that is going on. And in that way, we can build the strength of all the institutions to push financial inclusion. So a few things I have noted. One, I have seen that for all the financial inclusion strategies that we have, most of the MFIs don't have, or they have limited targeted funds for financial inclusion in fisheries. The MFIs don't have much. And that is why what NABARD and others are doing are good. So they need support from somewhere. It can be from government, can be from like Acheli is doing to the Tanzania CRDB. They need some funds to support what they have. Otherwise, they cannot do much with financial inclusion. Two, women are increasingly dominating the post-harvest sector. What do we do to them? I will appeal to financial institutions. And I believe Africa will also make it a goal to preach this out, because women are even known to be good loan repayers than men, from most researches that have been done at many, many levels. And then 3, it's good we promote digital innovations. FAO is promoting that. Africa is promoting that. Africa is promoting that. And this is something we must continue to do. And then the partnerships that we are clamoring for should include blended financing. This is really what the small micro institutions need. At the level they are, they lend at very high interest rates, which small-scale fisheries sector cannot take up. So if we are able to support through the partnership with some blended financing, that will be key. And then as we end, one thing I'm asking is that all of us, through our various policies, should push for policies at all levels, at government levels, at regulatory levels, say financial institutions, insurance, and then at financial institutions levels. These are the ones that can help to push funding in a less risky way to the FFS sector. Lastly, I will say that as I end, one area I want us to look at and to improve what we are doing is to look at building or improving data and statistics on the financial inclusion in fisheries. If you look at all the presentations that have been made, well, we mentioned 24 million have received funding from fisheries. Next time, I want to see some trend that after starting lending from, say, 2 years ago, the last year we progressed to this. The following year we progressed to this. Then we see clearly how financial inclusion is helping the small-scale fisheries sector. So I'll conclude by saying that let us also try to identify the institutions, especially the microfinance institutions that are supporting the sector, and then help them. On that note, I thank FAO and the chief organizer, Suchitra, for organizing this webinar. It's been good. We've got a lot of experiences, and it's something that we will need to follow up in subsequent webinars. Thank you very much. Thank you all presenters. Thank you all listeners for also making this program a great one. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Dr. Thank you, Thomas S.L., for sharing your elaborate views and detailed views on this. Before we close, I have few questions, maybe one or two, which some of our participants are keen to ask. So this question, I'm opening up to all the speakers. I know Mr. Maragasi is not here, but we have other practitioners here. We also have Dr. Raymond, who can also give his views on this. So it's Nelly Otieno from Blue Ventures. She has a question. She says that much of the government support goes to fish farming, but not for fishers in the high seas. And why so? So I would call upon Mr. Das, Prakash Das, if you would, being a practitioner from a big financial institution, if you would like to give your views on this question.
Yeah, it's actually in India, it may not be true because new scheme, flagship scheme of the government of India, that is Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampad Yojana, has given a lot of focus on the development of the deep sea fisheries and marine fisheries, particularly mechanization of the fisheries, and also for this insurance of the marine fisheries sector. So that's of course inland fisheries is not at government has not a policy, but marine fisheries This is being taken up under the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampad Yojana. And to say that this financial inclusion for these marine fisheries, in my view, the marine fishermen I have seen many coastal areas, they are the poorest of the poor. And the government has many schemes for the like social security schemes for these fishermen also. People they are in the high seas or depending upon the coastal fisheries. Both the government and the state governments, like federal governments, have many schemes for development, including taking off them from the fishery sector for other livelihood activities. Also, it is also there because of the effect of climate change and other issues. So, support is particularly from the India perspective. Marine fisheries, a lot of assistance is there, and also government is trying on that, and NABARD is also as a developmental institutions joining hands with the government and state governments and community-based organizations for the welfare of the marine fishermen.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. There's one more question, which I think overlaps, but I would just read this out. That she also says that categorization of fishers, do we also have fishers at the micro level? I believe so, and they should be at the majority at the bottom of the pyramid. So I think Dr. Das has already answered this question because they have with the kind of schemes that are inclusive. So they do cover a broad section of the fishers on this. Dr. Raymond, do you have any views on this question?
Yeah, not particularly much to add there, actually. I am already in touch through the chat with Ms. Otieno, and we will provide some information, especially for the countries that Blue Venture is working on. So I'll do that with pleasure.
Okay, thank you. There's one last question by Mr. Syed Hasib Hassan. He wants to know what level of transformation is needed to enhance the sustainability of small-scale fish stocks and fragile ecosystems, and thus protecting the lives and livelihoods of millions of fishers. So I leave this question to any of our speakers who would like to take this.
Yeah, I'd like to answer that.
Yes, Mr. Das.
Yeah, but I think the model of the group financing or the cooperative financing can help that the development of the small scale pieces. Even also in the government also is giving space and permission of the fisheries cooperatives, new cooperatives. In India, there is a separate ministry has been formed, the cooperation ministry. And the government is stressing for the creation of new fishermen societies. So that will help address the concerns of the small scale fishers and fishermen. And that's the way to actually for development of the people, whether it is in the agriculture sector or the fisheries sector, collectivizing the groups in the form of FPOs or the cooperatives, the associations or the federations. So that experiment NABARD has been doing since last 10 years with the FPO programs, both in the training, capacity building, financial support, with market linkages. Recently, NABARD has, there is a ONDC, Open Network for Digital Commerce, e-commerce. So FPOs are connected to the e-commerce. So NABARD has invested in that ONDC's company. It's a government company. And they're also facilitating FPOs for onboarding marketing. So maybe the fishermen products also in the FPOs also, the people can buy online and fish products by joining the network, ONDC network. So that way also NABARD is also trying. So we are doing a lot of many things, giving focus to many things. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So with this, in case if there are any more questions, feel free to share it with any of the speakers, or you can share those questions to me and we will share it with our speakers and we will positively respond to you. We are reachable to you through LinkedIn, and you'll also have our email IDs. So thank you very much for joining us today and giving your kind attention. I also apologize, we have been slightly extended the program, but I think being the first webinar for this year, I think it's a good start because we had a lot of good information over here. And we certainly, with other views that have been shared by Dr. Prasoon and Mr. SL, how to go forward, I think we will continue to bring to you all more information during this year with association with our founding member partners, for sure. So thank you. Thank you, Dr. Raymond. Thank you, Dr. Prakash Das. Thank you, Dr. Prasoon, Mr. SL, Mr. Chung, and thank you to Mr. Maragasi. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
Sushita.
much.
Thank you all.
Thank
you.
you.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Well done.